very good morning, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of Friday Drinks. We are out here at ZNCC conference, which, they're looking at the review of the entire year, an economic review, and we've got all sorts of people, business leaders, as well as government officials. It looks like it's going to be an exciting one. Of course, we've got the usual characters. Ziva, you're the one who organized this. What are we doing here?
It's a gathering of business people and policymakers that's being organized by the ZNCC. They call it the Annual Business Review Conference for 2024, running under the theme Unlocking New Frontiers for Sustainable Industrialization and Climate Smart Business Growth. But it's basically looking at the achievements of 2024 and maybe what we are planning and hoping for in 2025. So we've seen some notable business executives and a number of government ministers that are already at the conference. So look, it's a conversation looking back, but also looking forward to the next year.
Brilliant. And, sir, what are you doing here?
Well, I'm part of the panel, and we're looking forward to having some interesting conversations, discussing some of the things that happened this year, and looking forward into 2025. How do we navigate, the macroeconomic environment?
Well, you've heard it from us. It's going to be an exciting one. And what we're also going to do is have conversations with the delegates that are here. We've lined up an exciting, itinerary of people, and I think it's going to be an exciting one. I'm looking forward to it. And please join us. And yeah.
So, quick aside, what do you think of Bitcoin at 100,000?
Brilliant. That's because the new SEC chairman is somebody who's actually pro
SEC
crypto.
in the US,
SEC
that
in
is.
in the US.
Securities and Exchange Commission.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
He's pro
Crypto.
So, and that really is a big change, because the guy that was there before, had done all he can to ensure that crypto doesn't rise. And there was this entire thing. I don't know if you've been hearing this entire thing of crypto bros being debanked.
Yes, yeah.
US.
I picked that up.
So it was somebody who was actually fighting crypto. So having someone who's actually pro crypto, I think exciting times are ahead. It's looking as if America is on the right path. Just looking at the deregulation, because that's really, from a business perspective, that's really what we're interested in. And I think that this Department of Government Efficiency is going to be a game changer. You saw what? Anyway, let's hear your thoughts. What do you think?
DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah, and Bitcoin at 100.
Yeah, I think it's an important milestone. The debate about Bitcoin has been raging for quite some time, and you've got these great intellectuals and business people who were on the one end saying it's not worth anything. People like Warren Buffett and Nassim Taleb. And then on the other side you have the tech bros, as who are very bullish on it, and it seems the market is with the tech bros, and people are now talking about it potentially going to 1 million over the next 10 years. So it's certainly, I think, it's a development worth paying attention to. Something that we should all spend a bit of time wrapping our brains around in terms of understanding crypto and how it's going to change the world, because it doesn't look like it's going to go away. I think it's going to become a bigger part of the conversation in the world of banking and finance. And
absolutely.
As far as
what do you think of DOGE? Is there something that you think we could do with Jens?
I think it's actually very, very good. For the longest time in Zim, obviously, there's been this level of mistrust between government and business. But I think what I'm picking from DOGE is, there's a lot to be gained if brilliant minds in private sector, get involved in the affairs of their governance, because basically both sides want more or less similar outcomes, which is the success of the economies. And if the economy is doing well, the businesses are doing well, so the private investors are making money, and at the same time, government is also doing well. The welfare of the people, the taxes, and things like that. And so, I think for us, it begins with events like this, so that we maybe going forward we elevate them from just being talk shops to okay, we have set down this annual business review. We have got policymakers and businesses, and we have policymakers who pay attention to what the input that is coming from business, and also the business that is able to spell out issues without fear or favor, things that they believe will take the country forward, and then we start building from there. And look, we know that generally bureaucracies and politicians, they really not the best in terms of running any kind of enterprise or sort of entity. And the infusion of input from private sector players that have proven over the years that they can run something successfully into the affairs of government should be something that will move the needle. It's progress as far as I see.
I'm actually much more bullish. I'm actually incredibly excited about this idea of DOGE, because fundamentally it's based on libertarian ethos, and I think it's got the capacity to be a case study for the rest of the world in terms of how to actually run big bureaucracies. And I think it will, they will.
Do you think that that's actually contrary to libertarian thought? That you can make anything efficient in government? And actually, that it's actually a misnomer that in private sector, the only reason why we talk about efficiency is because the outcome is profit. So you're judging whatever you're doing against that profit. So if you take that into a government bureaucracy, they don't have the idea of profit. They're not maximizing profit. So what exactly?
Yeah. So look, I mean, the name DOGE is really just it's a meme, right? I think that what they're actually going to be doing is not necessarily increasing government efficiency. I think what they're fundamentally going to do is significantly reduce the size of government.
Yeah,
and that's,
I think that's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's so the name doesn't actually speak to the vision, or which I think is a libertarian vision of significantly reducing the size and scope of government, and
especially regulation.
Yes.
But how would you allay the fears of politicians and people in government, this side of the equator, who believe in big governments, not necessarily because they see them as being able to deliver value, but maybe accommodating, political friends, family, or members, giving them positions in government as a way of rewarding them for their politics, for their support. How do you maybe try to put it into some perspective as to how helpful a smaller government is, efficiency is, even to...
There's a limit to how much you can tax.
Okay.
And we've seen in Zimbabwe that we're now going after Mkomana Wemombe. There's a limit to how much you can actually tax people.
Okay.
So therefore, if you want increased revenue or at least increased expenditure, government expenditure, which is good for you, then you're going to have to look at expenditure, your current expenditure. And there's a lot of fat there that you could do away with.
Okay.
And I think that's the first thing. The second thing is you're answerable to taxpayers at the end of the day. And if taxpayers can get more from government services, then that's real value to your voters as well. And then the third thing has to do with investment into the country. Because if you're seen to be more efficient, and I use efficient in the colloquial sense, if you're seen to be more efficient, then you will naturally attract more investment. And I think we've seen Jeff Bezos talk about this recently, where he's saying he's looking forward to a Trump administration, primarily because of regulation. Everything is just overly regulated. And if you reduce the regulation, it just means that more and more people are going to invest.
Absolutely.
More riskier capital is going to come in. And I think that would be another benefit as far as Zimbabwe is concerned. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think you've put it quite well. Over time, what happens is because every you've got legislative bodies that exist to create new laws and regulations, and over time, you just end up with more and more and more until it's illegal to do pretty much everything. So I think it's important to have a reset from time to time where you review the framework of regulation, and you remove, because over time, the circumstances that made a regulation relevant today might not be true tomorrow. And if you're not reviewing and removing some of these things, then it just becomes really bloated and convoluted.
And regulation for the sake.
Yeah, you just have.
So let's say the political actors have agreed to this to have a Zim version of DOGE. Which sort of 5 people would we have in the room? Our Elon equivalents. I mean, the kind of business players that you think maybe will be a very good starting off our group to start off with.
Well, I would say the first thing that we actually need is the political will.
Okay.
It's something that HE has to take on board. If HE agrees that this is what we need and this.
Okay, let's say he has agreed.
Yeah. Then I think that you need somebody who has the political wherewithal. So I would say that it's very dangerous. And if you look at what Elon is able to do, is because Elon is actually close to Trump.
Okay.
So he has that political capital. The dangerous thing that we can do, and we've done it with Ntuli, is take someone who's outside of the political class and think that they can change government. I think that doesn't work. Ntuli doesn't have any political capital at all. So I would find somebody who is an Elon, has the expertise, is a disruptor, because that's the other thing. You must have a history of disruption, but most importantly, you must be very close to number one. You must have the political capital.
Okay.
And once you have the political capital, I think then you can have the technocrats, and I think it's very, very possible. There's one requirement that they have in DOGE that I found curious, which this part of the world we're not interested in. They say high IQ.
No. So are you saying we don't have high IQ? Yeah, I'm sure IQ is something that is naturally distributed, sort of across the board.
Well, they
don't
make no
necessarily have to
apologies.
be in America.
They make
No,
no
we've got
apologies.
high IQ people in Zimbabwe. Yeah, we do.
No, for sure, I agree.
Unless you're saying the distribution of IQ follows certain geographic.
No,
it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. I'm saying we do, but our preponderance for people with extremely low IQ in very powerful position, I don't know if we can go against it. So I'm just saying it. I actually agree. I think that it's less about your background.
You might have policymakers say with some with low IQ, but then you've got advisors who come in on the basis of their high IQ and also proven record in terms of what they've achieved.
So these are my 3 requirements, and then let's pass the baton around and then hear what you guys think. So my 3 requirements are: number 1, most important, is someone who has political capital, who's very close to the governing party and HE.
Okay.
Then number 2, a tested IQ. So they have to be very, very intelligent. And then number 3, they have to be a disruptor, a history of disruption. Those are my 3 requirements.
Yeah, look, I think from my perspective, yes, you have to have. I agree with you in terms of proximity to power. You need to be able to move the needle. You need to have, the ear of the people in charge. So that's indispensable. But and over and beyond that, I think you just need to be somebody who is clear about the desired outcome, which is smaller government. Because I don't think it's rocket science, frankly. I don't think these are problems that you need to have a team of geniuses to solve, right? I think a simpleton could actually do a fantastic job, as long as they are very clear that the vision is to reduce the size of government. And then you're just simply looking at things from a zero budget perspective to say, is this part of government absolutely critical?
And what's in it for them? But that's always another big problem we have this side of the world, where someone comes in.
But first of all, let's have about three things. You named two. What's your third one?
I think. I think this person must be open-minded and willing to work with players from the private sector, who will have ideas, who will have different experience. Because I think fundamentally, it's outsiders who will move the needle, right? So, and if you look at the first item that we both agree on, which is proximity to power, especially from a Zimbabwean perspective, it's likely that such a person will not be an outsider, but to actually have disruption, you need outsiders. You need disruptors. I don't think that in a Zimbabwean context you can find somebody who is very close to power but has been a disruptor and has a track record in the private sector. So this person will then have to be able to interface with outsiders, right?
Let's hear, Ranga, your three things.
Well, I agree on the aspect of, I wouldn't say proximity to power as it were, because I think it's possible for someone who is even an outsider, as long as they've got a very compelling, proposition to, the people in power, to talk to them, make them see why it's important for them to take your proposal on board. I think this part of the world, all that person has to do is to really be clear, because there's always this worry that what if this person comes and they upstage the people in politics, and all of a sudden they start having these fun ideas about them, maybe transitioning from business into politics or something like that. There's always that fear. I think one of the reason for the this mistrust between business and politics is maybe the fear and the worry that maybe people in business could possibly use their balance sheet.
The other two.
So there's that aspect, which is, and then so there's that aspect, but also then the other issue that you would need is probably someone who, he has got a proven track record. Anyway, it happens when you're broadcasting from outside. So guys, please come and
can you sort it out?
Sort this one out. So someone that has got a proven track record, obviously in private sector, that has really done something. Maybe I could borrow a term, disruptors. Probably not at the scale of your Elons, but people that have really tried to create a business. They've run something independently that's not dependent mostly on whether public sector tenders or any proximity. And that's why, because I think if in our case, if you then talk about proximity, chances are it's more or less someone who thinks like policymakers, so they are unlikely to disrupt the processes as much as you want. So it has to be an outsider, but one who can articulate their issues, and they've demonstrated that they can bring value. And then it has to be I almost say it's someone that really
You're trying to be politically correct. Say it.
It can be someone who is seeing, who has got some political ambitions. Because if that is picked from day one, then they won't even open the doors for you. So it has to be someone who says, you know what, guys, I'm just a business person. I'm just a business leader. That's all I want. And this is, you spell out why you think that.
But
has
that's
to be
almost
done.
impossible, right? Especially in Zimbabwe, almost
No,
everywhere.
but if you then show that from day one, why would they allow you in the first place?
One of the things
What if they allow you?
Well, that's why
and then
proximity to power becomes your
yes,
your trump card,
my
right?
problem in proximity
Whether you're
is
political
you may
or
not
not,
bring
it's-
in new ideas. Because
Yeah, no, I hear
yeah.
that, and I agree on private sector and being a disruptor elsewhere, outside. Yeah, I hear you on that. Okay.
and then the whole project, which is one of the things that I love about DOGE, is that it's got an expiry date, right? So they actually want to shut it down on the 4th of July 2026,
which is good.
But that's why you need high IQ. because
it's literally a year and a half.
But that's exactly why you need high IQ. Because the reason why you need high IQ people is because they move in very quickly, and they do things very effectively. Because and it's not that okay. All I'm just arguing is other people it would take longer. Whereas people with a high IQ would know exactly and precisely what to attack and how to attack it, and they have the track record of having done this kind of disruption before, or disruption generally. And then they have the political capital that whatever happens, they've got number one or HE's political base to make things happen, and that's it. So they will go into healthcare, they will go into education. We've got things like, and that's why it's necessary in Zimbabwe. We've got.
Have you seen that Milton Friedman clip where he's being interviewed and he's being asked? The interviewer basically is going
one by one,
ministry after ministry. Do we need this one?
Yes,
do we need
yes.
this?
I remember.
And he says no.
Yeah, we don't need it. But there's an obvious one in Zimbabwe, which is ghost workers, especially in Africa. So it's not unique to Africa.
It's not unique to Zimbabwe. You mean?
Yeah, it's not unique to Zimbabwe. It's quite right across. I mean, now we have 400,000 civil servants. Has anyone actually done
an audit?
An audit. You've got NASA paying out. Has anyone actually done an audit? Maybe someone has died or someone.
Yeah, I think there was a time when they attempted to do that. I'm not quite sure
that's why political
what actually
capital
came out of that.
That's why political capital
during
is
the
very
genuine
necessary.
days, it was actually a big issue that Tendai Biti was really talking about. That the salary was bloated by this, was huge because of this bloated, public service, where there are some, people that could not be accounted for. Also, there's need for an audit.
For an audit. Not just an audit, because I think DOGE would literally cut those positions, and not just that, our civil servants actually showing up for work.
So my question is, to what extent is this DOGE idea being inspired by the fact that President Trump is himself a business person? He comes from private sector, so he understands the value of efficiency, the value of doing things differently. How easy is it to sell it to people who are
I think
lifetime politicians that have never done anything?
The inspiration is not coming from Trump as a businessman. The inspiration is actually coming from the debt, the ballooning debt. I think now it's 100% of GDP, so it's around 36 trillion. And then
it's growing by $1 trillion every 100 days. It's going out of control.
The interest payment is now closer to a fifth of all revenue. So if you don't do it,
it's the biggest line item. It's the
one
on
line
the US
item.
budget.
No.
But
But it's the fact that it's only Trump who's thinking. If
there is a crisis. There's already
do you
a crisis.
think Kamala Harris would have taken that route as well?
No, definitely not.
Well,
I mean,
So
no. We're saying that population, the people who voted Trump, not necessarily because Trump didn't introduce this in his first term. So I don't think that if Elon wasn't there, I don't think that it would be an item that we'd be worried about. In fact, we can say this emphatically that Trump is a big spender. So he would just continued on a spending spree. It's not something that was high on his agenda. I think business people are the ones who've raised this as an issue because they can see where we're going. That if we don't solve this, then it's going to be a cataclysmic, a problem going forward. Because a lot of the capital, so it's business people who interface with reality, and they're the ones who've raised it as a point. And then voters, fortunately, because I think that there's a lot of constituent voting bloc that voted purely because of this, because they said, you know what, we do need the disruption. You've got, Pentagon. I think they haven't passed. I think about 7 audits, the last 7 audits.
Yep.
And that's huge, right? If you think about it, the expenditure there is about 800-900 billion US dollars a year, and
it's an obscene amount of money.
Obscene amount of money.
So let's try and bring it home. So it's a model that we're seeing out there, and maybe you want to try and bring it to Zim. Maybe what are the first steps that we would need to take?
Ghost workers.
Well, I think it's
and
just
I think
the
ghost
principle,
workers.
the principle of just saying that there is scope for an outside objective review of the scope and scale of government. Where we're saying, you know what, maybe we could have a substantially smaller government, and selling that idea, right, to the politicians to say, look, actually, we're actually much better off if we significantly reduce the scope and scale of government from an expenditure point of view, from Zimbabwe becoming an attractive investment destination, and from our capacity to deal with our debt, right? So so the benefits, those are the big wins immediately. You'll see much more investment. We'll be able to tackle our debt issues, and we will have a much more efficient, smaller government.
Very sure. Okay, gentlemen, I think this is segment 1, part 1, and then we'll be joined by other delegates. But I think that it's something that we want to talk about. Let's talk about DOGE and what these guys think. And let's hear what they think. We've got a number of government ministers, so we'll raise it with them.
Yes, certainly. Certainly. I mean, it's just a challenge that we put out there to say, you know what, why don't we move a notch higher from just having this talk shop to, having interactions where we actually have got resolutions that are where someone actually follows through. And a year from now, we actually review the outcomes of those measures and input. I think that would be helpful.
All right, join us again in the second episode. Cheers.
Cheers.